All right, so today we are going to be parrying puppets in Expedition 33 and just going through the nuances and everything that's required to be able to successfully parry puppets and get some unique gear. So if you don't know anything about the puppets in Expedition 33, just know that they're optional and they typically give you cosmetics, specifically within the hair. So if you look at the head or the headgear that that puppet has, then you will probably get that same thing from that puppet when you defeat them. So right now I'm doing an optional area on the map and it's called Sunless Cliffs. And in this area specifically, you face a puppet. And when you face the puppet, the cosmetic that you get is actually a bald head. I found that really funny because the guys and the girls here are bald. And I just found that really funny. So I wanted to get all of them. And how you approach this boss is you have to go in one by one. So one character at a time. And each character that you win with, you actually get the bald cosmetic for them each. So you have to do this one at a time. So that means you have to make sure that every character that you bring in here is actually appropriately leveled, because if not, then you're going to have a little bit of an issue. I'm even under leveled for some reason. It's at danger. My characters, I think the highest is about 76 and the lowest is about level 71, but they're even saying that I'm under leveled. So I would say make sure that you're at least around level 70 and that your weapons are at least around level 30-ish. As far as my attributes are around the same as my level. So they're around 60 to 70 in the attributes that I chose for my builds. And if you want me to do a build video later, we can definitely do that. I have no problem with that. Just let me know in the comments. But aside from that, let's just talk about how we approach the puppet bosses, because they all fight the same. But in this one specifically, you have to fight them 5 different times. And for some reason, when I fought him the first 3 times, it was great. But then when I got around that 4th time of fighting them, everything was just off and I couldn't really nail the patterns and the attack patterns. So I finally was able to get it. So I wanted to make this guide so everybody else would probably have an easier time approaching this boss or puppets in the future. One of the first things to know is that the fight really doesn't start until after you break the stamina of this boss. Every puppet is like this and it's really tough. And it seems like you're not doing any damage. As you can see, I'm attacking him here, but it's not much damage being done. It seems like there's not much damage being done, but this is by design. So you got to understand that he puts up this wall and he shields himself pretty much. And it's not until after you break his stamina that you're doing like the real justifiable damage that you're supposed to be doing with your character. You'll see after the fact when he's broken that he's taken way more damage than he was initially. So the first thing that you need to try to do is do as much damage to him as possible. Do as much damage, because every bit of damage that you do actually adds to the stamina break bar. And you want to fill this up as fast as possible so you can start doing the damage that you need to do to actually get done with the boss. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that every character that you're fighting him with, you need to have at least one attack that can break. And you can see right here, if you look at this attack, that if you look closely, it says it can break. And some of them have conditions. Lune, for example, she actually has conditions for her break. She has to actually consume 4 stains in her attack to have that attack break. There's actually a picto out there that allows your base attack to be able to break an enemy. And this is really good because you can turn that into Illumina and put it across all of your characters. Now you don't specifically, for this fight, you don't have to have a specific move that allows your character to be able to break another character's stamina. So if you can find that one, that'll be useful. It's not completely necessary, but it's something that'll make it easier. Now, you can't break the character until you fill up this bar. So it doesn't matter if the bar is not filled and you use an attack that can break, it's not going to break the character until the bar is full. And be sure that you actually break the character, and you'll see when you break them because it's a specific animation that you get, and you can see the bar itself breaks, and then you'll know that the person is stunned and you've broken them. Once you've broken them now, then you could do significant damage. So that's just something to keep in mind as a precursor to facing these puppet bosses. Break them as fast as possible by doing as much damage as possible. So in the beginning, you're not really worried about taking down his HP as much as you're worried about building up that break bar and then breaking the character so you can actually start doing some real damage. All right, so let's take a look at this Mime here, right? So first thing he does is protects himself, right? So he puts up this wall. Now he has to be broken before we can actually do real damage. So if I do an attack on him right now, you can see that was 4,000 and it's like his health did not move at all. Cool. Now, if you're looking here, You see I did about 7,000 damage, but I really built up my break bar a lot here. So the counters are really where you're going to make your money here. So you really want to do as many counters and do as powerful as attacks as possible to get that bar built up. So now we're going to talk about actually parrying the attacks. Luckily enough, the Mime only does 2 attacks, but they can be tricky if you don't know the nuances, especially if you're doing it over and over and you're just trying to figure it out off the top of your head. So we're going to go over the nuances of what the character does to know when to block what. So the first attack is Mime performs a hand-to-hand combo. Now, you can see that he leans forward a bit before he starts, right? So your parrying point isn't until he steps forward, but you're trying to parry before he steps forward fully. So he skips forward, and then you can see his right hand turn a bit. So as he skips forward before he touches the ground is where you want to parry. So if we look at this very carefully, he skips forward, and he comes down really fast, but you have to parry before he comes down, because if you parry after the fact, you're definitely going to get hit. Now, as far as the second attack goes, the second attack comes down really quickly, but really at the top of his action is where you want to parry. So he's going to skip forward. Then you got to get ready really quickly for the next one. And at the top of his action is where you parry, because he's going to come down really quickly after. So it's kind of like a 1-2 punch that he has here. Let's take a look. 1, 2. So you can see his hand goes all the way back, and at the top of his hand going back before he leans forward, or as he begins to lean forward and come down, is where you want to parry. Let's take a look at that again. Okay, so now the third part of this combo is a headbutt. The headbutt is actually a lot more simple than the others at the end of the day. So if you look at the headbutt here, right? Okay, you see his head goes all the way back. You're not parrying here, but what you're looking at more specifically to know when to parry, you should press the parry button along with this left leg moving. When this left leg moves back is where you need to parry, because the headbutt is coming right after that. So try to line up your parry with this left leg moving for the headbutt, and you'll get it every time, 100% of the time. Let's watch the leg. Okay, let's look at that one more time. So he comes down with 1, comes down with 2, leg goes back. Once that leg goes back, that's your time to parry. It's really about paying attention and finding the rhythm with this attack. This one is not too bad. It hasn't been too bad for me. I can speak for myself. It's just one that you really have to pay very close attention to, but it's not that bad. The next attack I'm going to show you is one that could get tricky after a while, especially after fighting him 5 times. But let's take a look at this. Okay, so the Mime performs a strange combo. All right, this one right here, you can't panic. All right, he does little things. He has little nuances. It's not really that bad, but you have to know what section to pay attention to of his body to make sure that you're most effective. So let's take a look at what he does. Let's look at the attack. The attack is not really that bad. It's really, really specific, but you can get caught up with a few things. Okay, first and foremost, let's look at the attack one more time. So there's not much going on in the background, but the foreground in front of you is where you need to be the most careful. If you look, every time he attacks, right, you can see the ground kind of like sprout up out of the screen. This will be a big distraction. And if you pay attention to this instead of this boss, he's going to catch you. So you have to really ignore this area of your screen, because it is a very, very, very big distraction. And this is a type of attack where if you look away for a split second and you get caught slipping, it's over. So you have to be very, very careful and pay attention. What I've found to be most effective here with this boss is I pay attention to the right shoulder area, and I'm literally just waiting for him to come down with the attacks. He does all 4 attacks with different speed. He does move his legs along with this attack, but I think the legs are more of a distraction than actually something that's going to help you to parry, because I tried to line up my parry with the legs and I was getting hit every time. So I would say ignore the legs for sure. So I'm paying attention mostly to the left shoulder / arm area of him the most, because this is what I found to be most effective in figuring out when he's going to come down with the attacks. When he comes down with his attacks is when you want to parry, and you want to do it slightly before. You're not trying to keep up with the attacks and catch it one-on-one. You don't want to catch the attack as it hits you. You want to do it slightly before the attack. So you're waiting for his arm to start coming down before you start to parry this. So let's take a look at this attack one more time. As you can see, I'm building up his stamina bar. And that covers the basics of puppet parrying in Expedition 33. Hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully this makes it a little bit easier when you're facing the puppets out there. If it was helpful, consider subscribing and let me know in the comments how it helped you. And let me know if you have any other tips and tricks, maybe some stuff that I missed or maybe some stuff that you want me to cover. I'm always down to have conversations with you all. Either way, thank you so much for chilling with me today, and I will see you in the next one. Enjoy.